Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take materials listeners send in or things we find interesting and really unpack them.
Dig into the details, yeah.
Exactly. And today we've got something pretty unique. We're looking at the science behind a skin bacterium, Cütie Bacterium acnes.
You'll often see it called C. acnes.
Right, C. acnes. And how it's been, well, creatively translated into this fictional series called Cütie Catcherz. Someone sent this in, along with some actual scientific papers.
It's a fascinating mix. We've got the Cütie Catcherz World Bible Draft 1.pdf, and yeah, some solid research on C. acnes.
So it's a blend of like imaginative storytelling and real-world biology.
Absolutely. And it seems the creator, Stephen Christian, who's actually an MD, PhD student, has really used his own background, personal experiences with acne too, it seems.
Ah, okay, so there's a personal connection driving this.
Yeah, trying to make sense of it all, maybe combat some misinformation, especially for younger people, preteens, young adults.
Makes sense. Okay, first things first, the name. Cuties, spelled C-U-T-I-E-S, but with an umlaut on the U.
How are we supposed to say that?
Well, the key thing, according to the material, is that it's pronounced cooties. Like, you know, the imaginary playground germs.
Ah, cooties. Okay, I get it. That's deliberate wordplay then.
Exactly. It plays on that visual cute versus the sound cooties, which sounds kind of gross. Right?
Yeah, definitely. And it connects to the whole bacteria idea.
Right. And the source material even touches on the word origins. Cooties, maybe from military slang for lice. Cute from Latin for sharp. So it's this interesting contrast. Appealing, but maybe a bit problematic.
Like the bacteria itself sometimes.
Precisely. Which brings us to the story. Cütie Catcherz, set on the island of Iltopia.
Island with a Y. Got it.
Uh-huh. And the heroes are a stuffed bear named Nimbus.
A stuffed bear hero, okay.
Yeah. And his friends, Spice Pickles, described as a fiery strategist.
Okay.
And Rambo, a gentle enforcer. Their mission is to save their friend Roscoe from this Cütie outbreak. Led by King Cütie, I assume.
You got it. Led by King Cütie. But the crucial thing for our deep dive is that these cooties aren't just random monsters. They are direct metaphors for Cütie Bacterium acnes.
Right. So the whole story is a way to explain how this bacteria works.
That's the idea, taking the science and weaving it into this adventure.
Okay, so let's break down the science first. What is Cütie Bacterium acnes? What's it doing on our skin?
Well, it's super common. It's a gram-positive bacterium, and it's anaerobic.
Meaning it doesn't need oxygen.
Exactly. It likes to live down in our hair follicles and sebaceous glands, the oil glands, and its food source is sebum, that natural oil our skin produces.
So it's just there. Part of our normal skin landscape, kind of.
Pretty much, yeah. It's often what we call commensal, just living there without causing issues, but it is involved in acne pathogenesis, especially inflammatory acne.
Ah, so that's the twist. It can cause problems. Why? Is it just like overgrowth?
It's more complex than just numbers. Research shows there are different strains or phylotypes of C. acnes. Think of them like different families within the species, IA1, IB2, and they don't all behave the same way.
Okay.
Some are more strongly linked to inflammation than others, and this seems to be exactly what Cütie Catcherz picks up on.
How so?
Well, the story describes different kinds of cuties, right? With different personalities, maybe different evolutionary paths or abilities. This mirrors the different C. acnes strains and their varying potentials to cause trouble. Some might cause mild issues, others might, well, mutate or cause bigger flare-ups in the story.
Okay, that makes sense. Different cuties, different levels of skin trouble. What makes the bad strains bad, scientifically speaking?
They have what scientists call virulence factors, basically tools or behaviors that contribute to disease.
Like what?
One big one is biofilm formation.
Biofilm. I've heard that term. What is it exactly?
Imagine the bacteria building a kind of protective shield or community. It's like a slimy matrix they create and live inside. This helps protect them.
Protect them from what? Like washing your face? Or treatments?
Both, yeah. It can make them harder to target with antibiotics, for example. They also produce enzymes, lipases, proteases that can break down skin components or sebum. And they can directly trigger our immune system's inflammatory pathways.
Wow, okay. And they release stuff too.
Things like pro-inflammatory molecules, even tiny packages called extracellular vesicles or EVs that carry these irritating signals.
So how does this story show all this? The biofilms, the irritating stuff?
It's actually quite direct. The cuties build slimy fortresses, those are the biofilm nests, In the story, these protect them from simple attacks.
Ah, so you need special tactics to get through the slime.
Exactly. And those irritating molecules in EVs, the book apparently shows agitated cuties releasing toxic spores or cloud bursts.
And that's what causes the inflammation in the story world,
Huh.
like the redness and swelling we see in acne.
That seems to be the parallel, yeah. The cuties get agitated, release their stuff, and trigger that inflammatory reaction.
Okay. The research also mentioned short-chain fatty acids, SCFAs. What's their deal?
Right, SCFAs. C. acnes produces these, and certain ones like propionic acid can actually amplify inflammation in the skin.
So they add fuel to the fire, basically.
That's a good way to put it. In the cutie world, maybe this is shown through like zones getting redder or burning, or the cuties looking even angrier when these SCFAs are notionally around. It shows the bacteria actively making the environment more inflamed.
These biofilms sound like a major problem for treating acne.
They really are. They contribute significantly to antibiotic resistance and why some acne just persists, you know?
And Cütie Catcherz gets into that.
Yeah, it sounds like it. The fact that you need specific tools in the game or story, the whips of wrath or sundrops, were mentioned to penetrate these biofilm defenses.
Right, you can't just zap the cutie. You have to break down its fortress first.
Precisely. It mirrors the challenge of getting treatments through the biofilm to the bacteria underneath in real life.
Does anything influence whether these biofilms form? Is it just random?
Not entirely. Environmental factors seem to matter. Things like certain cosmetics, the amount and type of sebum your glands produce, these can influence how readily C. acnes forms biofilms.
So maybe in Iltopia, certain areas are stickier, or Roscoe uses some weird hair gel that helps the cuties build stronger nests.
Could be. The story might weave that in, subtly connecting environment or habits to the strength of the cutie defenses.
Okay, so we've got the bacteria, its defenses, the inflammation. Now, acne itself isn't just one thing, right? It changes, it progresses.
Exactly. Clinically, we talk about different stages. You start with non-inflammatory lesions, think blackheads, whiteheads, that's mostly clogged pores, maybe some early bacterial activity.
Okay.
Then it can progress to inflammatory acne papules, pustules. Those are the red raised bumps, sometimes with pus. That involves more bacterial action and a definite immune response.
Right.
And then there's severe inflammatory acne nodules and cysts. These are deeper, larger, often painful lesions that can unfortunately lead to scarring. This involves significant inflammation deep in the skin.
So how do the cuties evolve alongside these stages?
This is where the metaphor gets really layered, apparently. The basic, maybe floating cuties seem to represent that initial non-inflammatory stage, just hanging out in the pores.
Like a clogged pore cutie.
Sort of, yeah. Then you get agitated cuties. Maybe these correspond to more noticeable blackheads and whiteheads, the start of visible trouble, maybe early inflammation.
Okay, getting a bit angrier.
Then come the hardened cuties with those biofilm domes. That seems like a clear link to inflammatory papules and pustules, the ones with structure, harder to deal with.
Protected by their slime fortresses.
Exactly. And finally, king cutie and the cyst cuties. These sound like the big bosses representing severe, deep inflammatory acne, the nodules and cysts.
Wow. So the type of cutie tells you the type of acne it represents.
It seems that way, and the way the heroes fight them likely changes too.
How so? Does that mirror real treatments?
It looks like it. For the base cuties, maybe simple tactics work like gentle cleansing or basic over-the-counter stuff in the real world.
Like using a gentle face wash.
Right. For the agitated ones, maybe more targeted strikes are needed, like using a spot treatment. For the hardened biofilm cuties, you need those special tools we mentioned, the whips or sundrops, to penetrate the defenses.
Representing stronger topicals, maybe prescription meds, or even procedures.
Could be. Things that break down blockages or really get into the follicle. And the fights against king cutie and the cyst cuties are probably depicted as major battles, needing multiple strategies.
Like combination therapy for severe acne.
Exactly. Multi-phase attacks, maybe teamwork, reflecting how treating severe acne often requires a multi-pronged approach, sometimes including oral medications alongside topicals.
That's really detailed.
Yeah.
What about newer treatments? Things beyond antibiotics and basic topicals. Does the story touch on those?
It seems to through the mentors in the story, the Pore Patrol.
The Pore Patrol. Love it.
Yeah. So you have these characters who teach Nimbus and the gang different approaches. Dr. Hoot sounds like the traditional medicine guy.
Evidence-based stuff.
Right. Maybe representing things like benzoyl peroxide or antibiotics, perhaps like the Buster gel mentioned in the story world.
Okay.
Then there's Nurse Hop, who focuses on natural remedy, plant-based anti-inflammatories. This connects to real research on botanicals that can, say, modulate macrophage activity. Those are key immune cells.
So calming the inflammation naturally, like the story's botanical repellents or calming mists.
Potentially, yeah. Then you have lab rat.
The innovator.
Seems like it. Representing cutting-edge science. The story mentions phage darts.
Phages. Those are viruses that target specific bacteria, right? A potential alternative to antibiotics.
Exactly. Phage therapy is a real area of research for acne. And lab rat also has probiotic pods.
For the microbiome, adding good bacteria back.
Reflecting the growing focus on balancing the skin microbiome with probiotics or prebiotics.
Cool. Who else is in the Paw Patrol?
There's Miss Glam, who focuses on cosmetic confidence and maybe products that disrupt biofilms without harming the good bacteria. So, smart cosmetic science.
Skincare that works with your skin.
Right. And finally, Sergeant Dirt.
Sergeant Dirt. What's his angle? Discipline.
Sounds like it. Discipline and consistency. Teaching routine skincare, good hygiene habits to prevent dysbiosis that's an imbalance in the microbiome, like using the cleansing glyphs regularly in the story.
So the importance of just sticking to a good routine, that's fundamental.
Absolutely. It covers a whole spectrum of approaches, from traditional meds to lifestyle habits to future tech.
What about antibiotic resistance? That's a huge issue in real acne treatment.
The source material suggests the story reflects this too. Evolved cuties that become harder to beat.
So they adapt to the standard attacks.
Seems like it. Requiring maybe combo attacks or teamwork or switching strategies. It mirrors how C. acnes can develop resistance, meaning the same old antibiotic might stop working.
It's a good way to illustrate a complex problem.
Okay.
Shifting slightly, our own bodies react differently, right? It's not just the bacteria.
Definitely. The host immune system is critical. It plays a huge role in determining whether C. acnes stays a quiet resident or triggers that big inflammatory reaction.
How does Cütie Catcherz show that?
Well, the fact that some cuties provoke these huge, angry flare-ups, the story's cysts and nodules while maybe others are sneakier, that could represent different types of immune responses.
Like some people get really inflamed, others less so, even with the same bacteria.
Exactly. Our immune cells, like macrophages, are involved in regulating this inflammation. And remember, Nurse Hop's plant remedies.
Yeah, the natural anti-inflammatories.
Those might tie into modulating that immune response, calming down the macrophages, for instance. It links back to influencing the body's reaction, not just attacking the cuties.
Let's look at some specific scenarios mentioned in the summary. Rubbing pimples, bad idea, right?
Right. And scenario 1 in the story apparently shows Nimbus accidentally activating more cuties by rubbing, which is spot on. Physical irritation usually makes inflammation worse.
Okay. And popping, scenario 2.
Showed Nimbus trying to fight cutie poppers and making things worse initially. That lines up perfectly with why dermatologists warn against improper popping. It can push inflammation deeper, spread bacteria, increase scarring risk.
What about weird home remedies? Like toothpaste. Did that come up?
Scenario 3 hinted at misguided treatments used by folks in Utopia. Things like toothpaste or crushed aspirin aren't formulated for skin, they can be irritating or drying, and they don't really address the underlying causes of acne, so ineffective or maybe even harmful.
Yeah, I've heard those don't work. And using treatments that are too harsh.
Scenario 4 mentioned overuse of drying agents. This seemed linked to Nimbus using his EMP weapon on max power and causing, environmental damage in the game.
So a metaphor for stripping your skin barrier with overly harsh products.
Exactly. Which can paradoxically sometimes make acne worse by causing irritation or rebound oil production. Same idea with scenario 67 about harsh astringents maybe being overusing the EMP sprays.
Okay, cross-contamination. Like dirty makeup brushes.
Scenario 5 touched on warnings about equipment use. That could subtly imply the real-world risk of spreading bacteria via contaminated fingers, phones, brushes, etc.
And what was that weird thing about sea moss Cove? An obsession with sea moss.
Yeah, that one's interesting. The summary said the sea moss was occlusive.
Meaning it forms a barrier, blocks things off.
Right. So while people in the story thought it was helping, it was actually potentially trapping moisture and sebum, creating a nice, cozy, maybe oxygen-poor environment where the cuties could thrive even more.
Oh. So a skincare fad that backfires because it doesn't align with the actual skin science.
Exactly. It's a great example of how misinformation, even if well-intentioned, can worsen skin conditions. And this point about misinformation is really relevant, especially when you consider that different skin types, including darker skin tones, might face specific challenges or be targeted with misleading advice. Understanding the science helps cut through that noise.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Okay, one last thing from the story. The prime cutie. Nimbus hesitates to harm it.
Yeah, it was described as a harmless base cutie, and Nimbus gets this vision of a prime cutie, leading to hesitation.
What's the takeaway there?
It feels like a really profound metaphor for our relationship with our microbiome. Not all bacteria are bad, right? Even strains of C. acnes can be harmless commensals.
So it's about balance. Understanding that wiping everything out isn't the goal.
I think so. That hesitation, that vision of a prime cutie might represent recognizing the complexity, the need for balance, not just destruction, understanding the ecosystem, not just fighting the invaders.
Wow. When you break it down like that, the scientific parallels in Cütie Catcherz are incredibly detailed.
They really are. It's a testament to how you can use creative storytelling, metaphors, characters, action to make something complex like microbiology and dermatology really accessible and, frankly, engaging.
Especially for that target audience, preteens and young adults, who are often dealing with acne firsthand.
Exactly. It's not just a story. It potentially empowers them. It gives them a framework, a language to understand what's happening on their skin. And that understanding is key, right? For everyone, including people with darker skin tones who might navigate different manifestations of acne or specific advice. Knowing the science helps you make informed choices.
For sure. Having those aha moments, like connecting the slimy fortresses to biofilms or seeing the cutie types as acne stages, that can actually change how you approach your own skincare.
It demystifies it, makes it less about random breakouts and more about understandable biological processes.
So it encourages a more informed, less reactive approach to skin health.
Definitely. So maybe the final thought for you, the listener, is to consider other ways media does this or could do this. How else can storytelling bridge that gap between, dense scientific research and public understanding?
Yeah, could we see more things like Cütie Catcherz helping us understand health topics, empowering us to be more proactive?
It's certainly a powerful model, something to think about. Thanks for diving into this with us today.
You got the cooties, we got the cure, fighting breakouts with facts and a whole lot of lore. It's Cütie Catcherz, beneath the skin, where science and story are about to begin. Let's go! You got the cooties, we got the cure, fighting breakouts with facts and a whole lot of lore. It's Cütie Catcherz, beneath the skin, where science and story are about to begin. You got the cooties, we got the cure, fighting breakouts with facts and a whole lot of lore. It's Cütie Catcherz, beneath the skin, where science and story are about to begin. Let's go!
That's a wrap on this episode of Cütie Catcherz Beneath the Surface, where science meets art and technology, and skincare gets a superpower treatment. If you learned something, laughed a little bit, or just loved the blend of art, culture, and biology, make sure to follow the journey at cutiecatchers.com and stay up to date on Instagram at Cütie Catcherz. Catch every new episode on Spotify and YouTube. Just search Cütie Catcherz Beneath the Surface. And remember, the cooties are real, but so is your power to fight back with knowledge. This is produced by me, Stephen Christian, of Stuck on an Island, in collaboration with Iltopia.